Hi, this is Don McAllister and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. Well, now that iOS 11 has been with us for several weeks, in this week's episode I'll be covering some of the minor updates and improvements that we never really got round to in the previous full iOS tutorials. This will probably be the final full tutorial on iOS 11, but I'll continue to post iOS 11 hints and tips in the weekly tip videos.